Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Out of the Park Developments YouTube channel. My name is Alex Murray, also known as AZ Axel, and today we are doing a video tutorial about player development and how to utilize the player development system and pages to get the best player development for your organization. There's a lot to cover on this topic, so if you've got your OOTP games open, let's go ahead and get started. All right, for this tutorial, we will begin on the player development page under the front office tab, and you can see from the screen on your display at this point, that is where we're at. And there's going to be quite a few different things to kind of review before we jump right into this budgets page and what that looks like. So I wanted to first of all talk a little bit about how player development systems work and how you can observe that over the course of the regular season. Because we can talk all day about, oh, you just put this much money in and you just make sure that your coaches are good. But understanding how player development will result in updates and how you can monitor it is going to be so much more important for newer players and even some veteran players out there. So over the course of the regular season, players are going to be subjected to TCR, talent change randomness. And we've talked a little bit about that in our staff personnel video, about how certain staff and personnel will affect the potential for positive TCR, or at least promote more positive TCR than hopefully negative. Now, players, when they are first created in your game, or when you launch your first game, if it's an MLB standard game, there is certain players who have potential they can reach. You know, it's rookie prospects, basically. Now, over the course of a regular season, a player will develop naturally, okay? There will be a natural development of the player influenced by the coaches that they're in, and not influenced by their statistics, okay? Unless you have technically a scouting director that is highly favor abilities, upon which you might actually see some potential change if they have a terrible season. But a terrible season does not dictate that their natural abilities or their potential natural ability has gone down, okay? That is not a direct correlation. So putting a player in, AA when they should be in single A to try to challenge them is not always going to result in a negative situation if they struggle. That can actually still be a good thing to do. Now, I would still prefer to advise you to view your minor league system and make sure that any players who have red arrows on the minor league systems are put down to the appropriate level that they should be at. So be mindful of your green and red arrows on your organization page for your minor leagues to ensure that if a player is out of position or out of level, that they are not facing challenging people who will make their results look terrible, because you don't want them to have bad results. You want to see that positive progress, which is why I would never recommend putting a player from the draft pool, that you've drafted straight in AAA. That's not going to help them. But having a bad season does not simply, nuke their potential ability right out of the gate, all right? That doesn't instantly kill a prospect. It just means that they don't have good success from their statistics to back up their ratings. And that can influence, again, that can influence your scout's opinion of the player, but there is still an influence of just they can still get better that can still influence the potential of the player. So you shouldn't see too much of a drop if you do that regardless. So over the course of the regular season, your scouting director is going to give you feedback on players. We should have talked about this in the scouting page. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. But of course, again, during the course of the regular season, your scouting director will give you an email with a whole bunch of player development updates. And you'll be able to observe how players are performing. Now, you can see not only minimal ones, but also all of the reports. This is the screen you'll be able to come to when you get your first one. The head scout will have the listing of the players, what's been improved or what's been lost about the player, and I believe the date of the report at that point. So you'll be able to do that and see and observe exactly who has been developing in positive or negative ways. So we're going to talk today about how to improve your chances of that, because you don't have control over the talent change randomness without the coaching staff that you have in the system. But we can technically try to give our TCR and our players the best chance. That's what we're trying to do, is make sure that we have the best chance for our minor league prospects to develop into the best potential player they can get into and become. All right? So, budget settings. Player development budget, draft budget, and international amateur free agent budget. Now, the draft budget and the international free agency budget, we'll talk about that in the finances discussion in the finances video, which is to come. So stay tuned for that one. Player development budget. That is going to tie directly into the success potential of your player development. All right? Now, there is a baseline for each game, for each save. There is no maximum. So you might be thinking, oh, so just pour money in. All right. There is a return limit for the money that you put into this budget. All right? And that helps prevent teams who are massive budgets from just pouring money into their player development and getting away with everybody being successful. All right? So there is a point in which the return on investment or the return on your budgeted amount is negligent. It's minimal. It won't ever be as big as the first increasements of the budget. So here's how I've always observed it. For a standard MLB game, the baseline, I believe, is about $8 million. If you do $8 million, your player development budget is basically up for grabs, and you're just hoping that a player develops well. There is a very high chance that you will see some successes and a very high chance you will see some failures. All right? If you go from 8 million to about 15 million, you will start to see some positive changes. There's a higher chance that your prospects will develop better, or at least up to what you expect them to. You may see some of your players who might have otherwise gone down or not developed well. They may actually be more neutral. If you go upwards to about 22 million, you may start to see some prospects coming out of nowhere. You might start to see much higher chances of a prospect who was, a 2-star or a 3-star prospect suddenly blossom into a 4-star prospect. We have seen this firsthand on our Desert Dreaming franchise, which you did online on Twitch. If you do upwards of about 35 million, you will see the best potential in your development system. This is where I usually will put my cap. This is where I'll usually put my limit, is about 35 to 36 million for the player development budget. Once you go beyond that, the return is not visible. It's just not something you're going to notice. But going from 8 to 35, it is extremely noticeable just how much more positive your player development can be. Now, again, that is not a guarantee. You are not guaranteed good development by just pouring money into your player development budget, all right? So don't get me wrong. You do want to put money in here, and you do have better chances, but it's not a guarantee. When you couple a high player development budget with good coaches in all of your minors and in your majors, and you have a good scout, the potential is so good to be able to get good development out of your players. That is the optimum and the optimal setting to be able to get the best possible development out of your system. All right? Now, again, we've talked a little bit about the staff and how that works with your players. So prioritizing that and the budget is going to be the biggest thing you can do. This screen right here will be one of your best ways to be able to observe an overview of how your player development is handling at the moment. From the players that are in your system that are prospects, you can change this from being prospects only to your entire organization. You can also change the ranked by to either the current rating of the player, the potential rating of the player, or the league prospect ranking of the player, which is this rank column over here in the bottom left-hand corner. And that can change every single season as you go along. You'll get updates to your prospect rankings. Also, right below these two little drop downs is information about your minor league systems and your player development systems. You can actually see what your overall rank as a minor league system is for player development and what the prospect rankings are based upon, as well as what's to be eligible for it, depending upon your save. This information in this field graphical interface to be able to see the players is critical also in order to be able to make sure that you know who's coming up through the system and if you're lacking of a position. So if you have only one prospect at shortstop, you may want to look at getting another shortstop prospect. Or if you've got only one catching prospect, you might want to go out and grab another catcher. So use this page to be able to view not only your prospects in your system, where they're at on the diamond so you can know where you have depth of prospects and no depth of prospects, the budgets that you want to put towards your player development, as well as being able to review your minor league affiliations so you can actually see how the teams are performing as well directly on this page right here. And you can tell if they're winning or if they're struggling, and if they're struggling, you can go in and take a look at their teams and figure out what's going wrong. And then, of course, on top of that, the player development reports page, as we talked about beforehand, this is a great way to be able to see how players are performing on top of going to their actual pages. So we'll end on this note. If you go to the scouting page for every single player, much like that scouting director's report page, this will give you an individual player-based version of the updated scouting reports and how the player is progressing. So for rookies, this is going to be critical in being able to observe how they're developing, if they're developing well or if they're not. And if they're not, you may want to look into why they're not developing well. And that should wrap up all of our tutorial on player development pages and the player development system in OOTP. I hope this video was helpful for you all in learning how to get started and utilize those systems in OOTP. We will continue to upload more tutorials just like this one and others down the road, so please do subscribe to this channel, and I will see you all in the next one.